And here on India at 9, we are privileged to have the two scientists who have decoded the Indian human gene, Dr. Sridhar Sivabu and Dr. Vinod Skaria, joining us here on India at 9. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining us. When you say you've sequenced the Indian gene, what does that really mean?
So it basically means you have read out all the genetic alphabets of an Indian individual, starting from one end all the way to the other end, and have then arranged them. It's a sort of a huge jigsaw puzzle. You put it together into one straight string of alphabets so that you can now read it without interruptions.
What would the benefit of a decoding like this be? As we heard that one of the gentlemen say there, it starts preventive medicine.
Right. So the idea is actually tomorrow we'll be able to look at the genome and tell to some extent what the person is susceptible to, what diseases he would get, and also what drug he should take.
But how do you actually decide? For example, North Indian versus South Indian. You seem to suggest that North Indians have a particular dietary habit which makes them prone to certain diseases. South Indians are perhaps immune to those diseases. Kashmiris are resistant to HIV. How do you how large are you saying that from decoding a few genomes of Kashmiris or North Indians you can make these large predictions?
So what is being told is it is part one of the story which has been unraveled today, wherein we had done the genetic map of India. India was one of the first countries to do that, which is what we heard just a while ago, and we have extended it further one step. Now by looking at just landmarks in the genome, we are going on to read all the alphabets. So what we have done currently is actually read out those alphabets. In no way we are going to be able to tell the difference between populations with one genome. We'll probably have to do hundreds if not thousands before we ever find out what's causing susceptibility to a certain disorder and what is actually giving protection.
Now, are you then saying that Kashmiris are not resistant to HIV? That's not one of the findings?
So that is the phase one study of the Indian genome variation. What we are here to discuss today is the genome sequencing, which is an extension of that work that was completed.
But having said that, at the end of it, it's one human being, of course, identity of who has not been released, whose sequencing has been done. I'm sure to come up to any kind of broad understanding, there would be many more people we need to go through in the days ahead.
Exactly. So the disease susceptibility that you talked in the first part is actually part of the first phase of the project, where we actually typed landmarks in the genome and looked at what are the variation that is conferring susceptibility to a disease. And then what is the frequency of that variation in that population?
So what's the road ahead? You know, you had the Science and Technology Minister saying it in Parliament, saying it's a major achievement. How does this compare with what's going on in the rest of the world in this field?
So as of now, the international community have announced the 1,000 genome projects around the world. Then there are several other independent investigations going on, the Chinese 100 genome projects and several others. So India has taken the first step into sequencing a human being. So from now on, for once we have bridged the technological barrier, so which means now we can have an even playing field with rest of the world, and maybe we can design better experiments and take up bigger initiatives. So it's basically a stepping stone at this point.
The average person who's listening would want to know, is there a cure for cancer? Now that you've sequenced this genome, will we know who it strikes more? So
we are still a while away from doing that, probably in the next decade, if not sooner. Once large number of Indians have been sequenced and other populations around the world have been done, hopefully the hope is that it will lead to predictive medicine, as our director Dr. Rajesh Gokhale just mentioned a while ago.